closer to his promise is made 250 years ago at Independence Hall just down the road. We will not stand by on the sidelines or convene this weekend just for convening's sake. We are here to activate progressive power. We must build and work together even when we don't fully agree. That's what the progressive movement is about. I know the word means different things to different people, and I know there could be some complicated thoughts about what it means to be a progressive in 2026. And I know there are people who feel unseen in the progressive movement. My vision and my goal is to change that. Because if you strip it down to the root, the word is progress. Progress is the idea that we can imagine a better future, that tomorrow can be better than today, that we can build something together that none of us could build alone. My friends, we're not starting from zero. 20 years ago, a group of scrappy bloggers decided they didn't need permission to move towards progress. They built something powerful in basements and coffee shops and libraries and living rooms, and out of that came Netroots Nation. They believed we could use the tools we already have in our hands as a force for progress. That same spirit is alive in this room today. We stand on the shoulders of Dolores Huerta, who said, "Si se puede," even when people didn't believe it. And others like Harvey Milk and Bayard Rustin, who walked into rooms where they weren't welcome, but still got the job done. The movement has never belonged to one group, but it requires all of us. From north, south, east, west, gay, straight, black, white, trans, brown, religious or not religious, rich or poor, immigrant, documented or undocumented. This work is personal for me, and forgive me, Mom, I'll be damned if I let the lessons my parents taught me and the work of the trailblazers that came before me be in vain. Before I go any further, I need to take a moment to recognize a couple of people. This organization did not build itself. To my predecessor, Eric Thutt, thank you for your contributions and support as I step into this new role. And while this organization did not build itself, it's still growing. It's an honor to welcome a new member of our team, my first hire, Alexis Buchanan Thomas, our Director of Fundraising and Sponsorships. Can we give her a big round of applause? I'm so excited to have you on board and with us as we continue to grow Netroots, not just the next 2 decades, but beyond. And last but not least, I want to thank you. I want to applaud all of you for being here. I know it's easy to become cynical, disengage and disconnect altogether, but you chose to show up. Over the next few days, we will not always agree, but we welcome respectful discourse. Every conversation from the main stage to the hallways, even at our parties, are designed to help sharpen our tools for long-term power in 2026 and beyond. Hear me good, Netroots. The work ahead of us will not be easy. But if history teaches us anything, it's that progress has always depended on ordinary people like you and I, willing to dream the impossible and do extraordinary things together. So like Dr. King and Stokely Carmichael on that long winding road in Mississippi, let's organize instead of surrender. Let's build instead of surrender. Let's keep pushing this country toward its progress until victory is won. Let's get to work, Netroots. Thank you very much.
Right here in North Philadelphia, he's been organizing since he was 11 years old. He made history as the first openly LGBTQ person of color elected to the Pennsylvania General Assembly. He serves as the vice chair of the Democratic National Committee and is the Democratic nominee for his seat in the 181st District. Please welcome State Representative Malcolm Kenyatta.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. I I grew up in a black church. I gotta hear somebody say something to know I'm in the right spot. So there is a story that many of you probably know. It goes a little bit like this. There was a big, autocratic, seemingly all-powerful guy who had taken over the world. And he and this kid would become famous because this guy, he goes in, he kills the kid's parents, but he's somehow not able to kill the kid. After folks beat him back, and he seemingly disappears, a couple of years later, he comes back. Now, everybody knows the story of Harry Potter. But what we often forget is the most important line in the entire movie, delivered by the most important character in the entire movie. Luna Lovegood has this one-on-one with Harry Potter. And she says to him as he's sort of turning away from his friend, saying, I have to fight this guy by myself. She said, if I was you-know-who, I would want you to feel alone. Because if it's just you, you're less of a threat. In this moment, big autocratic forces, big greedy, insatiable corporations, a media that is out of control, wants you to feel very alone, wants you to feel like you are by yourself, wants you to feel like there is no way you can stop this march toward a darker version of America. But I would say, as Luna said, they want you to feel alone because if it's just you, you're less of a threat. But the power of this movement has always been that we are never alone. We're never alone in this work. This is an exciting time for you to be in the greatest city in the world and in the greatest state in the United States. We've had a lot of big progressive victories in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and you'll get to hear from one of my colleagues here soon. This has also been a place where we made a few mistakes. When I ran against John Fetterman in 2022, a lot of people said there was no way that a black gay kid from North Philly could stand up to somebody who seemed like they had all the power. And I just want to say, Netroots Nation, I was right. But I also want to say that this is a moment for each of us to remember who the hell we are. And Philadelphia is great for that. But let me tell you this quick story with the time that I have. All of you in this room, I'm sure you are aware, and if you are not aware, you just nod your head and pretend like you knew what I was about to say. This was this 100th anniversary of Black History Month. 100 years. Started as Black History Week, now 100 years Black History Month. I've been thinking a lot about that, and in particular, a lot about a great moment 61 years ago, where John Lewis and a bunch of protesters walked across the Edmund Pettus Bridge in one of the single greatest moments of civil disruption and pushing back against authoritarians that we've ever seen, leading to the passage of the Voting Rights Act, the Civil Rights Act, which we know the Supreme Court is ripping apart every single day. But when we think about that story, the average person can tell you that John Lewis was there. They can tell you that he admonished all of us to get into good trouble. They can tell you what happened after. But it's very easy to take a long story and flatten it to just one person. I would remind folks that 61 years ago, when they dared march across that bridge, polling for the civil rights movement was not good. Only 19% of Americans said at the time that they supported what those protesters were doing. 34% said, I like what they're doing, but they're too loud. They got too many signs. Maybe they should just wait. And then you had a majority of the American population who said, I don't like what they're doing at all. So those are the sort of parameters in which they did this march that we now all look back on and said, boy, how incredible were they? They were organizing this march against the backdrop of a guy who became famous at his swearing in for saying segregation now, segregation tomorrow, segregation forever. Does that sound kind of familiar? That guy told them that if they dare showed up, he would use the armed folks who were supposed to be protecting and serving, not to protect and serve, but that they were going to face state troopers who were armed to the gills. They were going to face dogs that they were ready to unleash on the peaceful protesters. This governor told them that if they dared showed up, they would be arrested, and some of them might not make it out alive. But yet and still, over 600 people showed up. Lawyers and doctors, homemakers and nurses showed up. Now, for many Americans, they can only remember the names of a few of the people who showed up that day, but I will tell you that in this moment, where so many people are asking who's going to be the next this person, the next that person, focused on who's going to get the credit, I would say to you, Netroots Nation, that in this moment, just get on the damn bridge. Not because you know you're going to win or victory is guaranteed, but get on the damn bridge because you believe there is something worth fighting for. I believe in this moment, the American people believe, like I do, that you ought to be able to work one good family-sustaining job backed up by a union. That job ought to afford you the ability to have a home that you can afford in a neighborhood that's safe. That you ought to be able to open the front door of that home that you can afford and send your kid to a good, fully funded public school. And you know what? I happen to believe that we should be using our tax dollars to build schools in this country instead of bombing them in the Middle East. And then I have this crazy idea that if you or somebody you love gets sick along the way, you ought to be able to go to the damn doctor and afford the prescription, no exceptions. Yes, I mean Medicare for everybody. And then you know what? I believe that you ought to be able to retire with dignity and decency. That is what we're fighting for. That is what is possible. That is what the conversations and the collectivism and the solidarity that is going to come out of this conference is going to prove to the entire world. It is our duty to fight for our freedom, and it is our duty to win. It is our duty to fight for our freedom, and it is our duty to win. Are you ready to win, Netroots? Are you ready to get on the bridge? Are you ready to build in America for every single one of us? Welcome to Philadelphia. God bless you.
Our next speakers have been on the front lines of the fight against ICE in Minnesota, organizing, resisting, and building the power to push back. Please welcome Minister Janae Bates-Amari, Co-Executive Director of Isaiah and Faith in Minnesota, Kieran Knudsen, Local President of Communication Workers of America, Local 7250, and Wintana Melican, Executive Director of Groundwork Action.
It is great to see y'all. This is my second time ever sharing this story out loud, so be patient as I get through this. So my name is Wintana Melican. I'm the ED of Groundwork Institute and Groundwork Action, a training hub and a movement hub developing the next generation of leaders. Many of you know me though from different capacities in Minnesota, from leading municipal campaigns to raising minimum wage, paid sick time, and leading a coalition to restore voting rights for 55,000 Minnesotans, the largest voter expansion in state history. And also the campaign to end gerrymandering and electing lots of great folks in our state. See, I have always been proud to be a Minnesotan. I would say we are an absolutely exceptional state, but my pride is rooted deeper than ever before. It starts with this little girl. So I moved to the United States from Sudan. I was born in the middle of a civil war, came here as a refugee. My parents chose Minnesota because they heard it was a great place to raise a family. And over the last few months, I've been thinking a lot about the little girl in that photo more than ever before. She thought she was coming somewhere safe, somewhere stable. She was right, but it seems like we might be going in the wrong direction. See, I have always been a bold leader, afraid of very little, and always willing to stand up to anyone. I've banged pots and pans in most political offices in my state, and I've always demanded more from our local leaders. But honestly, there was a day when all of that changed. On Thanksgiving Day, 2025, Trump tweeted a very, very, very long post about Minnesota, but it ended with, "Only reverse migration can fully cure the situation. Other than that, happy Thanksgiving to all." I was sitting in my house when I read it, and I was very afraid. Honestly, the post completely paralyzed me, and I didn't expect that to happen. I didn't know what to do. I ended up deleting all of my social media. I deleted all of the footprint of me. I went completely underground. I had never hid before. That's not in my nature at all. But I come from a mixed status family, and I cried most days thinking that my politics would lead to someone in my family being targeted. That someone would disappear because I simply believe that police should be held accountable and that every citizen deserved the right to vote. And while I know that sounds absolutely crazy, but at that moment, I was just completely paralyzed. And the thought that my activism would cause harm to the people I loved completely froze me. Then every day, I would see more and more ICE agents in Minnesota. And I did organize, but I did it very quietly. Groundwork led on a weekly basis. We had trainings every week. We trained on cybersecurity, how to escort someone to an ICE appointment. We helped pull together a nerve center with local leaders and all levels of government. But I did all of that in private, nothing public. Then one day, Sunday, 10 a.m., I got a call, and it was my school board member. He said, "Hey, someone got picked up by ICE by your house. Can I give them your number so you can support them?" And I said, "Yeah, of course, give him my number." 2 minutes later, my cousin calls. I answer, thinking she's calling to say hello. She says, "Hey, ICE is at our church. They took our other cousin. What do we do?" I was honestly in shock, but I got up and I drove to my family's church. It's less than 3 minutes from my house, and when I arrived, the building was covered with allies, taking care of every single door and entryway, making sure my family was safe. I went inside and I found out what happened. ICE grabbed my cousin from her car outside of our church while she repeatedly told them that she was a US citizen. They brought her to Whipple, our ICE detention center, and they told her they were sending her to Texas at 4 p.m. Texas is where they send Minnesotans that they want to deny their rights and due process. They just said, "We don't believe she's a citizen." I eventually arrived at Whipple, a building I had been fearing since the president's tweet on Thanksgiving Day. I was there with my much younger cousin, who wanted to be present to bail out his big sister. So I had to be strong in that moment for him, but honestly, I could hardly stand. We showed up with proof of her citizenship, and they eventually released her. That honestly was the day and the moment, thank you. That was the day and the moment that I realized my silence would save no one, and it would keep no one safe. From there, I just took everything up a level. We built a robust Black immigrant protection network. We worked with Gender Justice, a local law and advocacy forum, who created a legal core team to help immigrants that were in ICE detention. They worked almost 24/7. We hosted daily briefings on what was happening and how to support each other. One night, I posted in a Signal chat that a friend's uncle had been detained by ICE. A housing attorney, literally real estate, with no immigration experience replied. He helped me get a habeas corpus written. It's about midnight. He helped me get that habeas written, and that man who had an active deportation order, he got released. He's free, still today. One day, the girlfriend of an active Marine called me because her partner had been picked up by ICE. I sat on speakerphone with the Marine office, walking them through how to get him released. That brings us to this photo with one of our congresswomen, Kelly Morrison, who actually was at dinner with a team of organizers trying to figure out what to do about ICE. And this is actually the exact moment we got the text that said, hey, he's getting released. He was her constituent. I led a team that coordinated flights home for Minnesotans held in ICE detention centers across the country. We found housing for children and their parents who had been held by ICE and were afraid to go back home. One of those folks is Liam. I worked with small businesses trying to keep their workers safe. One of my favorite things is we got to create an Ice Out button with First Avenue, Prince's old nightclub. And we worked with Working Family Party and Move On to get those buttons to the Grammys. Over 6,000 artists took those buttons home with them. We have a website where you can get involved in that campaign where we're organizing local artists. We created an influencer program where we briefed influencers on what was happening and how to tell our story, our stories. We flew our leaders to DC twice to meet with members of Congress to make sure they knew not to release $1 to ICE. This is one of my favorite photos. This is actually, to the left of me is Leo. He owns a company called, that's Juan. He owns a company called Leo's Towing. He actually stopped taking money for his business and goes around the Twin Cities towing cars for free, people picked up by ICE. This is Schumer meeting with him, listening to his story. Schumer tried to walk off, and me and Juan actually blocked him and forced him to sit there and listen. And you'll see the next post is actually when Schumer, about an hour after meeting with us, told the press he will not be releasing $1 to ICE. And that was the tweet about that campaign. So at this point, I gave it my all, and at this point, I was doing it all very publicly. Then one afternoon, when M4BL was leading a training in my office, my mother's best friend, I call her my aunt, she called me. She never calls me. She was crying hysterically because ICE was at her sister's house. Her sister had been sheltering in place for 15 days. Not once did she go outside. But then she did, because she thought ICE was gone. See, Bovino, the border control commander, had announced he's leaving Minnesota. She thought the ICE surge was over. It wasn't. But this time I wasn't scared. I was actually angry and organized. I called the Immigrant Defense Network and they sent constitutional observers immediately. They stayed until ICE left. We got her an attorney and trained her on what to do next time. My aunt now trains all of her friends. Yes. The difference between the first time ICE reached my family and this incident was that everything we had built in between. We have rapid response teams solely focused on Black immigrants. We do daily trainings. Our office was a command center. Every Minnesotan built a coalition in their neighborhood that they had learned to how to trust each other under pressure. We did the groundwork to build the systems we needed because we knew no one was coming to save us but us. And here's what I need you to know and understand. Yes, for our immigrant neighbors, we built a rapid response infrastructure, legal teams, training pipelines, coalitions that held under fire. But those are not just immigration tools. Those are democracy tools. The same infrastructure that kept my aunt out of Whipple is the same infrastructure that is protecting polling places across Minnesota. All Minnesotans have learned a lot from this moment. And what we have learned, we're now applying to protect our democracy with everything that we have. I've been leading voting rights work in Minnesota for over a decade. I have never expected the conditions to be this bad. We passed our dream legislation during our last trifecta. I thought we had fortified our election system. But now we have a new problem in our state. Misinformation, disinformation, and fear. It's hard to tell what's true or false, and our neighbors are still so very scared. And if I, with so much political power behind me, was afraid, imagine what my neighbors without that same access are experiencing. That's why we have built the Election Protection Network. Shout out to my core team members, Emma Greenman, John from the ACLU, I know they're here. Yes. We're a coalition of over 60 organizations, power building, direct service, legacy, election orgs, rapid response orgs, uniting across Minnesota, committed to defending our democracy. We are committing to protecting our polling places, not just in the cities, but in the rural pockets. We are training folks not just how to defend democracy, but how to participate in it. We are leading a Knock Your Precinct program where everyone is asked to knock doors in their own neighborhoods and invite their neighbors, not just to vote, but to get involved. We have a legal committee that is prepared to take on challenges, attorneys ready to man our election protection hotline. We have communication partners leading our rapid response and toolkit creation. We offer free scenario planning for all of our partners. See, every lesson from Metro Surge, every habeas corpus, every constitutional observer, every 3 a.m. signal message is now being applied to this work, applied to protect our democracy. See, we are not starting from scratch. We've already done the groundwork. Nothing will be left on the table. Every neighbor and every vote will be dependent. And this is because being a Minnesotan means being a part of a community of values. It means to stand for those values. It means to have a deep belief in equal rights for all. So for that little girl who came here from Sudan looking for somewhere safe, she found it in Minnesota, and we're gonna make sure it stays that way. Thank you.
Hey, what's up, Netroots? How's everybody? Are there any other Minnesotans in the house today? All right. Are there any union members here today? Very good. Are there any people here that are part of rapid response networks in their communities against ICE? Appreciate you all very much, very much. My name is Kieran. I'm the president of Communications Workers of America, Local 7250. We represent workers in telecom, satellite TV, home security, technicians, and video game quality assurance workers. Appreciate it. I live in Minneapolis, a city that has stood strong for many years against white supremacy, tyranny, police brutality, and now ICE abductions and murders. My friends and fellow workers, we're up against a deadly and vicious enemy. A regime that was willing to carry out a racist campaign of terror, ripping thousands of people from their families, from their homes, from their jobs. Immigrant workers were abducted while they were taking trash out from their fast food job, or dropping off their kid at daycare, or picking up their student after school, or even while pumping gas at a gas station, leaving an abandoned car as a symbol of the disappeared. One man, Victor Manuel Diaz, who was in Minnesota working to raise money to buy a home for his mom in Nicaragua, worked on dairy farms, milking cows, before he took a job in the north suburbs in a Korean restaurant. That restaurant was randomly raided, he was abducted, and 10 days later he was dead in a detention center in Texas. We're up against a vicious and violent and deadly enemy. It is easy, even before ICE, on a day-to-day basis to feel powerless, to feel demoralized and depressed, like we don't have any power. But collectively, actually, think about your day today. Many of you flew into Philadelphia or took the train in. You got put up in a hotel or went out to eat at a restaurant. Maybe took public transportation to get here. None of that happens without working people. Not a single wheel can turn without our brain and muscle. And that goes for the profits of these big corporations that are actually behind this violent regime. None of their profits go into their bank accounts without the labor of working class people in our millions and our hundreds of millions and our billions around the world. So while it's easy to feel powerless on a day-to-day basis, it's actually us that have this power in society if we decide to use it, if we decide to organize ourselves and unite. We're the ones with real power if we choose to use it. And in Minnesota, in a situation, as described earlier, where no one was coming to save us, we realized that we needed to use all of our weapons available. And some of those weapons, after many years and decades, have gathered a bunch of rust and cobwebs. But in Minnesota, working people, initiated by several unions, including ours, called for a day of no work, no school, and no shopping on January 23rd in response to the ICE murders and abductions across Minnesota. And on that day, 100,000 people marched through the Twin Cities. That effort didn't come out of nowhere. It came out of years of organizing. In my own local, we have a network of stewards in all of our represented employers and in all the different silos of job titles. And we knew that when we heard the tweet that was referenced before about Trump's efforts, that we were going to have to kick into a higher gear. And we wanted to get our membership ready. So when we heard about a sister local in St. Cloud that had 2 members abducted from the New Flyer bus factory, we used their stories to humanize who Trump was calling the worst of the worst. The brother you see on the picture here, Singh, was a factory worker for 20 years. This is his family, with deep roots in St. Cloud. He came from Laos when he was a preschooler and had lived in this country ever since and had been working in that factory for 20 years. So we told this story to our members as a way of reminding them and telling them, this is who ICE is targeting. These are the people that the president is smearing and disparaging. These are the families that are being thrown into chaos and disrupted and sometimes destroyed. And in doing that, and leafleting our members, we found that actually many of them had already started to get involved in their rapid response networks. 2 different members of mine, pro-union people but not necessarily union activists, showed me their whistles. And then a third brother started making 3D whistles and bringing them into work to distribute. So the movement that was going on in the streets of Minnesota started to infect the workplaces. And that gave us the courage and the confidence to go forward with January 23rd. We built January 23rd out of assemblies of workers across dozens of different unions, rank and file and officers. And out of that, we were able to put 100,000 people on the streets with no work, no shopping, and no school. It had an immediate effect. Target gathered up 60 other CEOs from Minnesota to write a letter to Trump. It was a very weak, cowardly letter, but it asked him to de-escalate. And we all know who Trump actually listens to. And that was the start of the rollback of the occupation of Minnesota. In our own local, we were able to get over 80% of our members to stay home that day. And I'd like to take this time to invite you all to think about how we can start flexing that muscle again. How we can use our power as workers to withdraw our labor and to cripple their profits. Because we understand now that it gets immediate attention from those in power, and we're able to use that to fight and defend our communities. Thank you.
All right, Netroots, how y'all doing? All right, I am Minister Janae Bates-Amari. I am the co-executive director of Isaiah and Faith in Minnesota in Minnesota. Now, when we had 3,500 ICE and CBP agents descend on our state, making it an occupied territory, stealing our neighbors by the thousands, violating our laws, violating our civil rights, and yes, murdering 2 of our neighbors. We knew that we were in crisis, and we knew that we had to respond to it. And it was not just a test on if we could respond in a crisis. It was a test on if we had built through our organizing over years the fortitude and the infrastructure that could then take the grief, the fear, and the moral clarity to be able to build power. And that's what we did. But we showed that we could do it only when we are actively working together to make it happen. So it is folks like Wintana and Kieran and the organizations that they represent, but it was also the dad patrols that sparked up. It was the daycare moms. It was the folks who said, we're going to show up together in this time of crisis, but we're going to stay in it together as a not just a surge moment. And so what you see in front of you is an event that my organization put together on December 13th of 2025. Because like my organization and many others, we had been organizing in the state of Minnesota, having people get in relationship with one another, invite them into public life, and strategize about what we were for, building a yes agenda about dignity, about affordability, about what it is that we actually need and want and can have, while also knowing we didn't get to go win that in a silo, and we had to be prepared to fight team authoritarian. And as we equipped our leaders at a 5,000 person meeting on December 13th, we equipped them as they got to build that yes agenda, but they also had a full day training on what the heck we're gonna do to counter an authoritarian regime. We had no idea that these leaders across the state in all these different constituencies that were organizing in barbershops, in churches, in mosques, in their manufactured home parks would actually have to implement that infrastructure only 25 days later. What you see in front of you is the very first scaled vigil that took place almost immediately after the murder of Renee Good on January 7th. That infrastructure was built by a bunch of clergy who prior to that believed that they were only about the moral call, and actually through the organizing got clear about their prophetic power call. And our organization, and I'm sure many organizations in this room, are constantly and having to stay clear about how are we developing regular people to get clear about what we have to do, not just because we're morally infuriated, which we should be, but because we have a power compass that our people deserve better and that we can go and win it. Amen. And so that is how these clergy, who were not just going to be a rent-a-collar and show up at a vigil, got to strategize together with labor unions, with community folks, with activists and others, and we actually pulled together one of the largest economic blackouts that have happened in this country. We took seriously our responsibility. What you all see is the Ragtag press conference that we pulled together literally 10 days before our January 23rd event of no school, no shop, no work. But we did so with so much clarity. But we did it also with literally years of relationship building and organizing. So we did not go in laissez-faire. And I'm saying this because we are going to need to ready ourselves for another moment like this, and not just in Minnesota, but across this country. For real. And I get the scattered claps because that's some scary stuff. I get it. But I want to tell you that you can do it because we've done it. What we were able to pull off was having a quarter of the state decide that they were not going to work, they were not going to school, they were not going to shop, because they were clear that yes, while we have the majority of people who are with us, despite what some polling may say, we know that the majority of people actually want to live a dignified and affordable life. The majority of people want to have a say about the democracy around them. A majority of people want to be able to live, breathe, and have their being without having an authoritarian of any type tell them that they cannot. And so as we work together, we got clear that we need to make sure we're holding accountable the institutions who try to deny how much responsibility they have. We held them accountable. We created the corporate campaigns that were necessary, and we did so with rigor and with discipline. It is how you get 100,000 people in the street in negative 50-degree weather. But it is also how you get 100 clergy arrested at an airport as they prayed for their neighbors who are being abducted. And as many of you know, immediately following our Day of Truth and Freedom, Alex Preddy was murdered. And so I hear that, wow. And for many, it could have been, this didn't work. They're gonna keep coming. Only the second half of that is correct. Because what we also know is that we continue to push, we continue to organize, and we know that that drawdown happened in Minnesota by the end of February. So we went from 3,500 ICE agents in our state to less than 100 when they were supposed to be there until mid-June. We were still supposed to be fighting ICE right now. And we continue to organize, we continue to push. We ended up saving, in just the last couple weeks, saving our public hospital that was to close. The same folks who poured into the streets around ICE poured into the streets for this hospital. We showed up knowing that our voting rights are on the line. We showed up knowing that our neighbors are in desperate need of us. We showed up on Palm Sunday. 10,000 Minnesotans, Christian Minnesotans, showed up to declare that we are going to continue this drumbeat of telling a new story. What does it mean to be a neighbor? What does it mean to love our neighbor? What does it mean when we have a white Christian nationalist running our country and we are called to say something different? And so we painted a new story. And that happened in 17 other states in this country who had their own Palm Sunday event. It was not just a one-off event, but it was a launch. It was a launch into prophetic work that is necessary as we are moving towards this election season. And so as we get ready for what many are calling probably one of the most chaotic, cruel-filled, sabotage-filled seasons of our lives, and could very potentially also have violence, we need to be clear that we're ready. You are ready, and you might be thinking, no, I'm not. Yes, you are. Because we are going to get this done together. We are going to fight together, we're going to strategize together, and my God, we are going to win together. Are y'all with me? God bless you all.
A longtime Netroots Nation friend, please welcome the National Director of the Working Families Party, Maurice Mitchell.
Netroots, let me hear you. I feel so much energy in this room. I could feel the momentum and the wind at our backs. At times like this, it can be hard to remember what it was like at the end of 2024 and the beginning of 2025. I was stunned. Trump won another term, but his vileness, corruption, racism, that was to be expected. He told us exactly who he was. Here's what really fucking got me though. The people who claim to be defenders of democracy, self-satisfied liberal elites, the most powerful people in the country, the media institutions, Democratic elected officials, hell, a lot of the Democratic Party, law firms and universities, they weren't in retreat. They were in collusion. They were collaborating with Donald Trump. When the final account is written, we shall never forget those that looked fascism in the face and chose comfort over courage, self-preservation over sacrifice. I came here to tell the truth, y'all. I don't know about you. Are you ready for some truth telling? Okay. And looking at all these profiles in cowardice, I remember asking myself, where is the resistance? Well, we built it ourselves. I was there with many of you on the streets, regular, humble people risking their safety and sometimes their lives for complete strangers. That's called solidarity. We built the resistance while those same Democratic leaders who were crouched in the fetal position, afraid of their own shadow, quietly deleting pro-Black Lives Matter tweets, softly distancing themselves from immigrant communities. And they now co-opt our resistance as their own. They now claim in advance any victories that may come in November as theirs. And look, we welcome them because our movement must be a big tent. We need everybody on the front lines, but we will remember. The resistance has kneecapped Trump 2.0. Y'all have all seen the polls, right? The early special elections have been seismic. Hello, Anna Lilia. The recent wins undeniable. Hello, Rep. Rabb. We have channeled the disappointment and disgust of working people into political backlash, and we are now within striking distance of taking power over the House and even the Senate from MAGA. But let me take you on a journey through time. Picture it, it's November 2026, all right? Y'all with me? All right, we're gonna time travel here. We did the work, we feel ascendant, we feel vindicated. You got out the vote, we won back power. We built on that blue wave. Choose your pick, Democrat gets anointed. And maybe if we're lucky and smart, we win a narrow Dem trifecta in 2028, the White House and both chambers of Congress. But who's sitting at the table with this shiny new president setting the agenda? The seats of power go to the highest bidder, as they always do. It's the corporations, AI CEOs, the broligarchs, who bought their way into controlling economic policy. Not unions, not working people, not you and I. And you know whose interest won't be represented at that round table? My 9-year-old boy, my wide-eyed, beautiful, hopeful Black boy. I am terrified whether he'll know the feeling of meaningful work, the warm embrace of intimate community, the friction and joy of doing hard things, or the beauty of creating art for art's sake. All of the things AI tech has promised to sanitize in the name of efficiency. And that doesn't just make me angry, it makes me deeply sad. These CEOs need you to believe their future is inevitable. It's a fast-moving train, and the best you can do is get on or get out of the way. The people at the table view themselves as history's protagonists. Our job is to make working people, the people who actually fuel this economy, the people whose genius actually is behind innovation, the actual protagonist. That's our job. If you acquiesce to their idea of inevitability, here's what will surely happen. Those Democrats will have the opportunity to deliver transformative, populist investments in our communities, accountability to everyone that broke the law, to advance authoritarianism and real structural change, and yet fail to do all of those things. Instead of the transformative change that we need, They will choose to maintain a status quo that not only never worked for working people, but will continue to exponentially line the pockets of their biggest political funders and the greatest backers of fascism. And understand that this is under a best-case scenario where the Democrats have trifecta governing control in 2029. So the working class will again rightfully rebuke them for squandering that moment. Some version of MAGA 3.0 takes back both chambers of Congress in 2030, and we, the people on the side of working families, will again be asking the question, where is the resistance? Am I right? The lame duck Democratic president with the flag lapel shrinks, and the liberal rule of order obsessed Democratic Party elite will sit stunned. And on the heels of their dogmatic purge of the actual champions for the working families in their midst, the few colleagues who could have actually put up a fight and stoked the hearts of the working class, they will have handed a ruthless would-be dictator all the room in the world they need to seize the opportunity of a generation. Sound familiar? How many people remember 1980, 2016, 2024? They say history doesn't repeat, but it sure as hell rhymes. A right-wing populist candidate will emerge as the post-Trump standard bearer. This candidate may take the form of a leader more like Viktor Orban or Narendra Modi than Donald Trump. Patient, sober, sincere. In some ways, even in ensuring that movement can deliver on some populist elements of their agenda, even as they consolidate power and persecute immigrants or LGBTQ folks or black folks or whoever the disfavored group are. Are you with me? These wolves hidden under the cloak of delivering for the working class. And in 2032, when we have an American Modi or American Orban, we will have realized that Trump 1.0 or 2.0 were just the precondition for something more enduring and transformative. And we will ask yet again, where is the resistance? Fuck that. Fuck that authoritarian timeline. This speech is called Exiting the Authoritarian Timeline. I want to exit it. Do you want to exit it? Well, let's exit it right now. Here's my warning for our resistance movement now. Do not settle into our assigned role. Do not accept their timeline. I, as the leader of the Working Families Party, am not interested in building a resistance to power. I want to build an insurgency that wins the power. I don't want to just fight the power. I want to be the power with you. And we will build that grassroots people power from the ground up with everyday folks from Pennsylvania to California, Wisconsin to New Mexico, because no matter where you live, working people share the same anxieties about losing their jobs and bombing children abroad instead of feeding children at home, a super majoritarian movement that is feared by the political and corporate class alike, where we force the question and there is no place to go but the freedom side. Let's make the conditions such that the white nationalists and wannabe trillionaires have to build a resistance, not us. And their resistance is so laughable. Their sci-fi dreams of replacing workers with artificial intelligence built off a human mind, so lame, so silly that the working class majority squashes it, using the systems of government as intended. I am going to lay out the insurgency we're building. And if you agree, my ask is for you to join us. Now, I could already hear the little skeptic in the back of your head. I will give you good reason now to shout that skeptic out. You cannot tell me that an insurgency can't be done when we've already started building it. We can make true across this country what we've done here in the city of Brotherly Love for the past 10 years. Philadelphia is a two-party town, but which parties? Not Democrats and Republicans, Democrats and the Working Families Party. Make true what we did in New York City, where more people voted for Mayor Mamdani on the Working Families Party line than all the people who voted for his Republican opponent. Make true everywhere a $15 minimum wage that the elites laughed at, already done in WP states like New York, New Jersey, and California, and then let's raise it to $25. Make true everywhere paid family leave that we fought for and won for in Connecticut. Make true everywhere free school lunch for all children like we secured in New Mexico. And I remember those 4 states that we just named, well, we're building power in all of them. We all know what's happening right here in Philly with Rabb and with WP council members Kendra Brooke and Nicholas O'Rourke, where we built a base of working class black voters and delivered body blow after body blow to the tired Democratic machine. They're still counting votes in California's 22nd congressional district, but auto shop owner Randy Villegas is looking strong despite an ocean of establishment money spent against him. In Wisconsin, WFP candidate Matthew Crow unseated a 16-year incumbent mayor with the wind turning on grassroots anger over a proposed data center. In New Mexico, rural voters in Española chose WFP's Yolanda Hiramia over a former legislator backed by payday lenders, lobbyists, and oil companies. Look, they only gave me 8 minutes for the speech, and there aren't enough minutes in the day to tell you all of our wins since we started this insurgency, so bear with me. I don't have time to tell you about how California WP State Director Jane Kim is now the top vote getter for a statewide office, or about how our former New Jersey State Director Ana Lilia Mejia shocked the nation and beat out a crowded field in a historic win in New Jersey's 11th, or how about WFP's Bob Brooks in Pennsylvania's 7th, won his primary and is now running in a swing district on universal health care. We have a chance to build working class power in the halls of DC, in state houses, in city halls, and county commissions. I know it because we are doing it right now. That skeptic's voice saying a people power insurgency is not possible better now be drowned out, made small by the proof that the actual receipts that we've already cashed in. At Quarter, any insurgency is an idea, a vision, a demand. And here's ours. Every single person who calls this country home should have a home we can afford. Healthcare and childcare when we need it. Pay time with our families and a good union job. The foundational things we all need to live a happy, prosperous life. That agenda has a name, the Working Families Guarantee. And we will deliver it over the next decade. Not by electing more Democrats, but by changing the whole damn system. But those ideas need a political home, a political party. And as we've chatted about, the Republicans definitely ain't it, but the Democratic Party sure ain't it either. Insurgent movements on the left and right has shifted our politics before. Reverend Jackson transformed the party and laid the groundwork for Obama. The centrist elite insurgency from the Third Way and the Democratic Leadership Conference ushered in the Clinton era. The right-wing Tea Party insurgency that led to Trump and MAGA, and this hellscape that we're living in was an insurgency. In all three, all that was required was a plan and a willingness to fight. And at the end of that fight, there were teeth on the floor and a new timeline. This is the new timeline, our timeline, the working families timeline. You already must be here because you've already chosen the freedom side, I'm assuming. But there's one more choice to make, and I'm inviting you to make it. If, after everything I've laid out, you still believe the answer is to vote a little harder for Democrats, write their committees a check, and answer their breathless text messages, then by all means, I implore you, do not move a muscle. Sit on your hands. Show me nothing. But for the rest of y'all, I'm about to ask you to make some noise and bring up this energy, and if you could stand, stand, and if you could clap, clap. And I want you to be prepared for me to ask you to do more, to sacrifice more, not less, to fight more, not less. Does that sound all right? If you believe that we don't simply need a resistance, but we need an insurgency, let me hear you. If you believe that politics from the working people of this country, let me hear you. If you believe that our movement needs to be fun and beautiful and sexy and joyful, let me hear you. If you believe that the people united will never be defeated, let me hear you. Well then, welcome to the Working Families Party. Welcome, comrades. Now, Netroots, let's get to work. Help us build a political party at the core of this insurgency. Go back to your organizations, your campaigns, your group chats, and ask one question. What do we have that can help build this insurgency, help build the Working Families Party in every corner of this country as a political party of our movement? Whatever your work is the work. We need all of it. If you make content, help the WFP make it. Help us tell our story in every format, in every platform, until the people we need cannot miss it. If you raise money, help us fund the fight. The other side has billionaires. We need each other. If you volunteer on phone bank and knock on doors, do it for the next generation of working families champions. And if you work somewhere with a big megaphone or a platform or an audience or a following, then help the WFP build ours. Lend us your reach. This is our time. So let's leave this room, not as people who attended a speech. Let's leave it as the core of an insurgency that ends this fucked up timeline once and for all and writes the future working people deserve.
From North Philly, he's a state representative, a movement builder, and the Democratic nominee for Pennsylvania's 3rd Congressional District. Please welcome State Rep. Rabb.
What's up, people? How y'all doing? This is a little surreal for me because 20 years ago, I was a political blogger. I was a blogger. And I was trying to see if I could interview elected officials and other luminaries. Little did I know that I would be representing the bluest congressional district in the United States. There was a trope among the new media class 2 decades ago that technology would save us, and it would be the great equalizer. And I was in that small radical subset that said, no. Justice saves us. Am I right? I am just a stone's throw away, all of us, from an extraordinary statue of an extraordinary man named Octavius Valentine Cato, who a year after the ratification of the 15th Amendment, guaranteeing the right to vote to free black men, who was murdered for organizing black folk to come out to vote. He was shot dead in 1871. These are not unprecedented times. This is very much America. This is not a rhetorical flourish or an intellectual exercise to me. As a family historian and genealogist, I've traced the footprints of my ancestors for over 30 years. And on the corner of 7th and Lombard, not far from here, my great-great-great-grandfather, Reverend Amos Noah Freeman, fought beside black and white abolitionists on the right side of history, fighting for racial justice 190 years ago. And he, among my ancestors of blood and conscience, have inspired me to serve. But it is also disheartening that the words I'm saying now are not so different than the words of those freedom fighters 2 centuries ago. So the question I have for you all, Netroots Nation, is are you prepared to fight this fight? I think you are. I know I am, because I wasn't supposed to have won. I'm a black democratic socialist reparationist. And here we are. And I want to put an emphasis on the we, not me. We the people. This is the real we the people, not the ones that were described or thought of 250 years ago. Because I also descend from one of those signers of the Declaration of Independence, and it's not a point of pride that I say that. Because he was from a family of one of the biggest human traffickers, 5 generations of human traffickers in the New World, Philip Livingston from New York. We have to hold two truths at the same time. That this is a land, this is a country born on stolen land and stolen labor, and that the only way we can fulfill the promise of true greatness is to invest in goodness. Goodness before greatness. What does that look like? It looks like shared prosperity. It looks like collective liberation. Am I right? This is the work, and it transcends partisanship. I'm not here as a Democrat. I'm here as a badass. On the right side of history. And what does that mean? It means that when we need each other the most, we show up for each other. Like Minnesota showed up for us. All of us. Like Philly showed up for the nation in 2020 when the fascists tried to steal the election. That was Philly, folks. This is our opportunity to redefine society. We can do this, but we can only do it together. We have that power. We have to believe that we have that power, and we do. There's a trope that we should be afraid of the billionaire class. They got it all wrong. They should be afraid of us. They need us. We don't need them. When we work together in community, in movement, we are indomitable. Please hear me when I say that. We got this. We've done it before. We have extraordinary ancestors of conscience who've created a path for us, a legacy for us, to inspire us, to help us navigate these dark times. That's when we have to shine the brightest. And it requires all of us, no matter what role that is, it's our time to step up. I welcome you all to Philadelphia. I welcome all of your genius, your treasure, your talent. This is an important convening. What we do with it is entirely up to us. I love you all. Thank you so very much. And let's keep doing the work, people.
Please welcome back to the stage, Anthony Robinson.
You all still with me? All right, well, we're getting ready to head over and do some karaoke. We're gonna let you all go. I know we want to respect your time.